Okay, Brooks, take it away.
All right. I would like to welcome everyone. Uh, I'm Brooks, K9 BDC, the PSRG Vice President. I'd like to welcome you all to our November 8th educational meeting. Our topic today is amateur radio in space. We have a presenter here, Mike, KB8BMY. And so, Mike, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay, real good. And yeah, I am Mike, KBA BMY, and this presentation's about amateur radio in space. Amateur radio has always been at the forefront in the frontier of communications, and this tradition continues to this day in places well beyond Earth. Today we'll be discussing ham radio satellites with a focus on operating the ISS station. And I want to start out with some of the basics of how to operate and how these satellites work. First, a little bit of a history. The first amateur satellite was launched December 12th, 1961, only a few years after Sputnik was launched, which was the first human-made object in orbit. So less than, let's see, barely 4 years, amateurs had a satellite right after the first thing was put up in orbit. So that's pretty impressive. This particular one was launched. It stayed in orbit for, I'd say, about a day or so, something like that. And it just simply transmitted a beacon, kind of like Sputnik did. It just transmitted a beacon. There was no two-way communications. And it transmitted HI in Morse code. So that was kind of neat. And of course, right now there's currently over 20 operational amateur radio satellites in orbit. These satellites, often referred to as Oscar, orbiting satellite carrying amateur radio satellites, are used by licensed amateur operators all over the world, and they're used for voice and data communications. And here's two, for example, AO7 and AO91. There's an interesting story behind AO7. It is still operational to this day. What happened, it was launched in 74, and near the end of the 70s, it went dark. And they weren't sure why, maybe the batteries failed or something like that. And in the early 80s, around 19, I'd say about 1980, it went back online, but it would only work in sunlight. When it went in on the other side of the Earth, out of sunlight, it would go dead. And what they think happened is that the panels were still giving current to the transmitter, and basically it short circuited, cutting out the battery, which probably wasn't cycling anymore anyway. And so it'll do two modes. It'll do one where it does 10 meters and 2 meters. So it does VHF and UHF, or 10 meters. And I want to say the other one's probably 2 meters. The 10-meter one is not advantageous. The one that everybody wants to operate is on VHF, UHF. And most of the time it stays in that. Sometimes it flips. And it flips, if somebody runs too much power, it'll flip over to the one they don't want. So they ask you, don't run too much power. It's one of the higher orbiting satellites currently. Um, so it's a little hard to hear. I've listened to it, but it's got a nice passband. We'll talk about that in a little bit, the difference between FM and linear satellites. AO7 is a linear satellite. Now, if we look at AO91, I worked that one a lot. I worked it when I was down in Texas. When I first started out, that was my go-to satellite. That, and for a time, AO92. That's an FM satellite, and it worked great for a long time. Now it's sporadic, but it still works sometimes. So they're pretty tough little satellites, and that's a rough environment up there, as you can imagine, temperatures and everything. Okay, and again, we're focusing a bit on the ISS. This is what the ISS looks like through a telescope here on Earth. And I'm going to go back. So can I do that? No, there it is. It's kind of short. So it's kind of neat. You can see the panels and everything. And I have a telescope. I should try to do that. Okay, here's some examples of who I talked to using amateur radio via the ISS. And by the way, that's my operating position when I was in Houston. That is on the body of water is Clear Lake, which is an inlet right off of Galveston Bay. And I don't know if you can see it depending on what screens you're using, but behind me is Johnson Space Center on that body of land. And basically the shore curves around. And I had like you could get like a membership, kind of like a Six Flags thing where you got a year membership, you can go in as much as you want, and that was a lot of fun. But I loved operating there, and it was a lot of fun. So, all right, so some of the examples of who I talked to. This is Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, KB8 BMY in CN87.
BMY, this is Kilo November 6, Echo Victor, Quebec, Charlie Mike 97.
Okay, real good. Charlie Mike 97, we copy, and please copy CN87. CN87, we're near Olympia. Good morning.
USL Charlie November 87 in Olympia, Mark in Patterson, California.
Okay, real good, Mark. Good to hear California. 7-3, KV8 BMI.
7-3. KB8 BMI, Kilo 7 Oscar Golf Whiskey, Delta November 17.
Kilo 7 Oscar Golf Whiskey, KB8 BMY. Please copy CN87. Good morning.
Good morning from Idaho, 73s, and thank you for the kisses.
7-3, KB8 BMY.
Kilo Echo 7, Kilo Echo, Delta November 14.
Kilo Echo 7, Kilo Echo. This is Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, KB8 BMY, CN87.
Okay, Charlie, or Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, and Charlie November 87 is Kilo Echo 7, Kilo Echo, Delta November 14. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. 7-3, good morning, KB8 BMY. This is Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, KB8 BMY, and Charlie November 87, Olympia, Washington.
Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, Kilo 9, Tango Yankee, Echo Nancy 52.
Kilo 9, Tango Yankee, KB8 BMY, thanks, and 7-3 from CN87, KB8 BMY.
Hey, it's great working out west finally for once.
Okay, and all those contacts and much more were all in one day because the ISS actually in one day it will do anywhere from like 4, 5 passes in one day over a given location. And I worked all those in one day and more. So it's as you can see, it's got a strong signal, or as you can hear, it has a strong signal, and it wasn't too hard to get into.
NA1SS is listening.
NA1SS, this is Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee in Olympia, Washington. Good afternoon.
Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee. Welcome aboard NA1SS, the International Space Station. I really enjoy it out there in Olympia.
Very good. It's an honor to speak with you, and thanks for your service. Good to hear the space station this afternoon. Over.
And it's great to talk with you, 73s.
7-3, this is KB8 BMY.
NA1SS, over.
And that was the first time I worked the crew, and you never know when they're going to come on. It just so happened I was going to work some passes. I was right out here in front of the house, and I was listening. It came over the horizon, and all of a sudden one of the crew members came on. I was like, my lucky day. And I worked the crew 3 times, and that was the first time. So it was really a privilege to work these guys. And this is Kilo Bravo 8, Bravo Mike Yankee, KBA PMY, in Charlie November 8 7 Olympia. Alpha Alpha 7 Romeo Mike. This is KBA PMY. Good to hear Everett. CN87 here.
Also, Charlie November 87, hey, thank you for my very first satellite contact ever. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're going to have to send you a paper QSL card. Congratulations. Welcome to the birds.
Whiskey Maker 7, Victor United Fox, Charlie November 82.
And 7-3 there in Everett, KBA PMY Olympia.
Alpha Alpha 7 Romeo Mike, Victor Alpha 7 Tango Foxtrot, Charlie Oscar 54. Victor Alpha 7 Station, can you repeat call sign? Go ahead. Yeah, Roger. Victor Alpha 7 Tango Foxtrot, Charlie Oscar 54. Good tell, thanks for the contact. Yeah, welcome to the bird system.
Okay, so that's a little sample of what I've done on satellites and in this case on the ISS. So the big question on your mind is, how can I do it? And so that's what this is all about. So first, we're going to talk about a few basics, satellite basics. We want to understand how satellites work, knowing the frequencies you transmit and receive on, tracking their path to know when they're passing overhead, and where to aim your antenna. You also want to know what equipment to make it happen, knowing how to troubleshoot problems as they arise. You can also get awards for a lot of the guys who like to paper chase, and how to QSL. Okay, best way to understand a satellite is, as you might imagine, it's like for an FM satellite, it's like a repeater, only it's up in space. So the higher that tower gets, the bigger the coverage area. In this case, it's pretty high, so that footprint can be very large. If it's right overhead of my location, I can talk to California, into Idaho, maybe Colorado, um, east of the Rockies, pretty easy, up into Alaska, Western Canada. So it's a pretty good size footprint. It's not the entire continent. Now, if that satellite is to the east of me and I'm just on the edge of that footprint, now I can get into places like Wisconsin and Michigan even. I got as far east as Michigan and Ohio before. One time, the pass was where I was on the edge of the footprint, and the footprint extended from the Pacific Northwest, one side of it, and the other side was in Florida. I actually worked a guy in Florida, but we were both on opposite sides of that footprint. So it's pretty neat. You can cover a pretty good area. Uh, Most satellites like AO91 are going to pass over about every 12 hours. So you can work normally 91 passes over in midday and then in the middle of the night. And it's pretty much regular in that respect. The ISS is a little different. Its orbit goes kind of the central part of the of the planet, where AO91 and the other ones go over the poles basically. What this means for the ISS is that you have multiple passes within one day, and so you can work a lot of contacts in one day. You have a lot of opportunity, so that's what makes it really neat. And the other thing that makes it neat too is, unlike, and again, we're going to use 91 as an example, they put it up there. It's on its own. So if something bad happens to it, like happened to 92, it worked for a few years and then it went dark. It just stopped working. Could they retrieve it? Yeah, but they're going to go after telecommunication satellites, military satellites. They're going to pull those in, do the repairs, and put them back out. They're not going to do that for a ham satellite. They're not. But on the ISS, if they need to do a repair or swap out equipment, it's in the cabin of the space station, so they can do that and they can do it fairly easy. They can also do repairs on antennas, everything they need to do. So it makes it very reliable as far as communication goes. So it's just a neat thing. Okay, and now I mentioned different types of satellites. First of all, FM, it's like a repeater. That means you can only, just like if you're on the 696, you can only have one guy talking at one time. And you'll hear pileups too. We'll get into that. We'll get into that later. Kind of like when guys checking the net and they pile up over each other, you get that. But for all intents and purposes, it's like a repeater. One guy can only be heard at one time, clearly. A linear satellite's a little different. Picture if you had a slice of spectrum from, say, 20 meters, and you could slide up and down the dial. That means you could have multiple contacts going on at the same time, and they wouldn't interfere with each other. And we call that a passband. We won't talk too much about that now, but maybe an upcoming one I may put something together to delve into that a little bit deeper. That's a fun one because you can reg chew. As you noticed on those contacts, I gave my call, my grid position, maybe my location. For the most part, it's pretty much quick, just boom, boom, in and out. On linear satellites, you've got 10 minutes on a pass. And so the average guy on 20 meters is going to have probably a 10, 15 minute QSO, and then he's going to get off. You can do the same thing on a linear satellite. So you can do that. Now, that being said, you can do it on an FM satellite too. We're in a neat spot here because we're in the northern part of the United States. There are a fair amount of hams in Canada, but not as many as there are of us. And so what happens, there are passes that go over Canada to the north. I am the antenna of the north, and there's like me and two other guys, maybe three other guys. Excuse me, three other guys. So I can sit and actually have a rag chew with these guys on an FM satellite. If you're down south, like in Houston where I was, or in Kansas, or back east, that's unheard of. You're never going to have that happen to us, maybe in the middle of the night. So it's kind of neat in that respect. Okay, what's out there? There's a lot of stuff out there. Which, by the way, I just heard on the news that a piece of space debris hit the Chinese space station, so they're delaying their return of the current crew. So a lot of stuff can happen to satellites up there, and a lot of stuff can happen to stuff up there because there's a lot of debris. Some of it's old pieces of satellites that stopped working, but they're still orbiting. There's even tools. Guys went on doing repairs on the space station. All of a sudden, oops, they let go of the wrench. So it's floating around up there. But so there's a lot of stuff. So the question we have is what ham satellites that are up there that aren't debris that we can work? Well, the answer to that is here's a couple answers. One is the AMSAT Live Oscar satellite status page. This is a neat page. It's going to tell you a lot of stuff. First of all, it's going to tell you what satellites are up there and their condition. And if we look at the colors, obviously red transponder, it's active. This is crowdsourced, by the way. I've posted on this. A lot of people have. You hear it go over. I've worked it, so blue. I can hear it works. Sometimes I only hear a beacon. Maybe something's wrong with the satellite. Say if we look at that one, number 44, or up at AO23. I heard a beacon, that's all. Or I listened for it. I know it's passing overhead, but I didn't hear it. So I'm going to put red. I'm going to report it because it's supposed to go overhead. I want it known that it's not transmitting. So that crowdsourced information is real valuable. Another neat thing on this page too is you notice some of these are underlined. Those are hot links. I can click on those, and that's going to take me to tell me detail about that satellite. It's probably going to be the page of the entity that put it up. Because remember, we're not the only guys putting satellites up. There's people all over the world. There's countries, universities, students, everybody putting these up. So it's not just us. And here's an example. So these first three are ours, or first five are ours. FO29, that's Japanese. HO113, I believe that's Chinese. IO86, that's somewhere in South America, I believe. PO101, I think that's from the Philippines. And it goes on RS44, that's Russian. And so it's a worldwide thing. Everybody's involved. It's really neat. So I'll have links to these too on a couple places. I'll show you near the end of the presentation. Okay, so we want to work a satellite, what frequencies do we use? I know when I go on the 696, it's real simple, 696, and then I go negative 600, and then I have a PL. FM satellites are a lot the same. You're going to have a transmit and receive frequency. Um, but here's the thing. We're going to use two bands. Instead of being on the same band like you would on a repeater, we're going to uplink on UHF or VHF. We're going to downlink on UHF or VHF. The reason they do that is it's a lot easier than trying to put some cans in for duplexers. You know, put put the cans in there so that you have isolation. It's just easier to have it on two different bands. And so that's why they do it. The other thing is too, is it allows for full duplex. So I can transmit and I can hear myself on the downlink. And let's talk about that for a little bit. Full duplex is important for a lot of reasons. One is I want to hear if I'm stepping on someone else. I want to hear how strong my signal is. And so to do that, I've got to do one of two things. Either I have to have a radio that's capable of full duplex, which are kind of rare, or I have to have two radios. So to do that, it's fairly easy with FM satellites. All you really need is two HTs, and that's it. But you want to have two HTs. Can you work at half duplex like a repeater? Yeah, you can. You could actually take a UV5R. You can program it to listen on one band, and then when you key it up, you'll transmit on the other. In a pinch, you could do it. I've done it just to see if I could do it, but it's not something we recommend. You want to try to do full duplex because that's just a better way. Because then you know. Because when I keyed up, I didn't know if I was getting in because I couldn't hear myself. Full duplex is important for that, and I want to stress that because you'll hear people do it, and that'll kind of irritate people when if some guy always does half duplex, you know. So okay, next, what's the frequencies we're going to use? Here's some charts, and put my cursor over here because you can't see my fingers. Okay, let's look at on this bottom row, second over, ISS. You'll notice that the uplink is on 145.990. The downlink, there's 5 frequencies there. It's like, which one are we going to do? Well, there's a reason for that. And we'll cover that. That's because of Doppler. What happens is, the best way to describe what Doppler is, and here's the formula. And if you want to delve deeper in the formula and calculate it out, there you go. It's right there. But without getting too complicated, think of it this way. So you're standing next to a train track, and a train goes by, and he hits his whistle. As he goes by, you hear the pitch drop. If you were on, it wouldn't drop, it wouldn't go up, it wouldn't do anything. It would just sound the same. But as that train approaches and you're on the ground, the pitch is going to go up, and then it's going to steady as it goes past you, and then it's going to drop in frequency. And the guy who discovered that was named Doppler. They named it the effect after him, and he realized that, hey, this is something that happens. And he probably in his time, it was in the 1800s, probably realized it with trains. That whistle's at audio frequency, as we all know. Radio frequencies are just another frequency. Audio is just another frequency. So anything on a frequency is affected by that effect. So let's go to satellites. As a satellite is approaching, let's say if it's coming right at me and it's going to pass overhead and it's going to go away, as it comes towards me, that frequency is going to go up. And as it's passing over me, it's going to steady and then it's going to begin to drop. And so if I want to hear the transmitter of that repeater or that satellite, I have to vary my frequency because the frequency is going to change. If I just stay on the same one, it's going to go off and I'll lose it. I won't hear it because I'm not on the right frequency. Now, if you're doing linear satellites, you have to do that strictly. I mean, you got to go on your transmit and your receive frequency, and you've got to compensate for that. On FM, it's a little bit more forgiving because of it's FM, it's more wide banded. That's part of the reason, I think. So it's a little bit easier. So what happens is we're only going to transmit on one frequency. We're going to stay on that frequency. The frequency we're going to vary is going to be the higher frequency. It's always going to be the higher one. And that's always going to be UHF for our application. So we're going to start out when when the ISS comes over the horizon, we're going to be sitting at 437, 810. So it's going to be, it's going to come over the horizon as it's about, yay high, we're going to switch. We're going to jump 5 kilohertz. Um, and again, as a footnote, and I don't want to muddy the water, make it confusing. If we're on linear, I have to move like 1 kc at a time, very gradually, because I'm on sideband. You're going to know if I move more than 1 kc. Just like if you're on sideband and 20 meters, if the guy's too high, he's going to sound like Donald Duck. If he's too low, he's going to sound like that. And so on sideband, it's very critical. On FM, again, it's more forgiving. So I can hop 5 kcs each time, which means I only got to make 5 hops for the whole pass. The pass is going to be roughly 10 minutes, give or take. So I'm going to make my changes on that higher band, which in this case for ISS, UHF is on the downlink. That's what I'm going to be listening on. So when you saw me in that video talking to the guy who just got his first contact, you noticed I had a radio hanging on a lanyard and I had one in my hand. The one in my hand was on 145.99. What would happen is I would have to reach down to the lanyard and click over 5 kcs on the HT that was hanging on my chest. But it's not a big deal. I only had to do it 5 times. And that's not that many when you think about it. I'm looking at my notes on the bottom. On FM, we get way of doing this. Okay, I covered all that. So that's basically correcting for Doppler. And I want to show the chart again. I put this on here twice on purpose because then now it makes a little sense. There's the frequencies. And on every one of these, you'll see that you have to correct for Doppler, and they're always going to be on the UHF side. There's something else too. Like a repeater, you may have to use a PL to access it. The most common PL that you're going to use on satellites or ISS is going to be 67 hertz, which is usually the very first one where you're setting your PL. There's a couple exceptions, like one bottom row, third over from the left, there's no tone. That one doesn't have one. The last one, bottom row, far right, you'll see PL 101 has a 141.3 hertz PL. But again, it's usually always going to be either no PL or 67. That's pretty much the rule. So if you're working a satellite and you're like, I can't get into it, what's going on? Try your PL, try it on 67 hertz before you do anything else. Chances are that's going to be it. That's going to help you get in. Okay. Now it helps to know when it's going to pass over, and it helps to know where to aim the antenna. So let's talk about that. This is one of the ways you can track satellites. It's a desktop application. I'm going to do something here real quick. I'm going to jump out of here and I'm going to go over to this. Okay, now what you're looking at is a live view of that web page. Okay, right now there's a satellite going over. It's Hades, and we can click on it. I'm not going to get into all that, but basically it tells you that it's passing over, and it actually beeped too. Let me see if I take it off, if it'll beep. Oh, that's irritating. I have muted. So it'll let you know, hey, your satellite's coming over. Let's scroll down a little bit. There we go. Again, we're primarily talking about ISS for the purposes of this presentation. You can see ISS here is going to pass over this afternoon at 5:12. I like 24-hour format. They got it in like AM, PM. 5:12. The next one's going to be about 90 minutes later at 6:47. There's another pass at 8:24. This is tonight. And then there's another one at 10:02. If we look at the column over here, let's look at the top. You've got the time, the satellite orbit number. I don't pay attention to that too much. The date, local time that the pass is going to be. Oh, wait a minute. What is this? I'm sorry, my bad. That's how many hours from now. Yeah, I haven't looked this. Okay, so local time, we're looking at 1916, 716, 1916 hours is going to be the first one. And it's going to show the elevation. I want to kind of focus on that elevation. That very first one, if you can see, it's going to be 11 degrees. That's going to be its highest elevation. Let's go over to the next one. 60 degrees. That means that thing is going to be almost right overhead. Next one's going to be 42. That's pretty high. And 40. The ones that go right overhead, they're like really easy. It's like right overhead. Just aim at it. But there's a catch. You're in the middle of that footprint. So you're going to be limited. Remember, we showed the footprint. So when I look at that 11-degree pass there, um, I'm going to kind of want that one. It's going to be a little harder because it's a little lower the horizon and what have you, but I'm on the edge of that footprint. That means I'm going to get out further. So it's a mixed bag. If you're starting out, get the ones that are overhead. Get used to it, get comfortable with it, then you can, get the ones that are lower. By the way, there's another benefit to the ones that are lower. Doppler effect is not as pronounced. It's still there, but it's not nearly as pronounced as it is going overhead. If that thing's passing right overhead, you're actually going to hear that frequency go up, even on this, even on FM sometimes. But on sideband, there was a Chinese satellite a few years ago, and it was on, it would go over the poles. And as that thing was coming, I was just flipping the VFR as fast as I could just to stay on it. And I mean, it was moving and went overhead. Then it stopped. It stopped changing frequency. Then it passed over and started dropping it, and just at that same fast rate. And that was fun. So that's kind of how that works. All right, let me go back over here. We're going to put this back up here. Okay. And okay, by the way, too, so that tells us. Now, here's the thing though, you're outside. So you're not going to take the computer with you outside. You may, I won't. We're going to use these. We're going to use mobile apps for tracking. They're going to tell us when it's going to come over. They're going to tell us its path. Um, and the one on the left is Heavens Above, which is the one I like to use. And it doesn't show it on this thing, but basically it has like this little hourglass thing. So if you've ever gone target shooting, right, you aim at the target, you put the thing on there and you hit right on. This works the same way. If I aim this thing at literally at the sky and that little glass is right on the path and I'm right on, that's it. I'm going to hit that satellite because I'm aimed directly at it. So that app is really handy for that. Okay, let's talk about equipment now. There's a whole gamut. You could spend anywhere from a couple $100 all the way into thousands. Leopack is something you put on for a fixed station. You'd probably use a 9700, which has full duplex capabilities, and that's good in the shack. Also, with that, you would use a computer to control your azimuth and elevation. It would also control the radio as far as your frequencies to correct for Doppler. So what that means is you'd use a computer program. The whole thing would be controlled by that computer program, and all you do is hit the PTT and talk. That's all you got to do. And so it's pretty slick. There's a couple downsides. One is it's really expensive. The other downside is not portable, um, but it's a good setup, and a lot of hams have that. They have the setup if they can set something like that up. If you want to run portable and you want to keep that cost down, you're going to look at something like an elk, an arrow antenna, and two HTs. Most of the elk ones, I don't have an elk, but most of the elk ones, I've seen guys use a full duplex HT with a duplexer in the elk. But again, I've not used an elk. I'm familiar with arrows, and arrows work really, really well. I really love my arrows. I have two of them. You can have a duplexer in it, or you can just have two lines going on, one for VHF, one for UHF. And as you can see, that's how I have mine set up, if you remember the video. And I'll show that station again in a minute. So I don't have a duplexer for that purpose, but I do use a duplexer. And I'll show you in a minute. Here's the stations. This is if I use linear. All I did is use two radios. I use 817, 818 for linear. And again, I can slide that dial. On my YouTube, in fact, on my QRZ, you can link to that and see me working a guy using linear. And I'm literally sliding the dial, and I have to slide it at a certain rate. If I go too fast or too slow, the guy I'm going to lose the receive station. Um, so it's almost an art as much of a science. So it's that kind of thing. Here's the FM station. That FM station was the first one I put together, and that is down in Houston. The one on the left, I'm up in Tacoma. Okay, and this is the current station I'm using for FM. What I started out doing is I used a couple of Yaesus and stuff like that. Real good radios, good receive and all that. And I got good at doing it and all that. And then I thought, why don't I push the envelope? What is the least expensive station I could put together just to see if I could do it? So, well, we had the arrow, and the antenna is the most important part. So that's why I went with the arrow. People build them and they work pretty good too. I've seen people do that, but I used the arrow. But I wanted to see, could I do this with two UV5Rs just to do it? And I did. By the way, those three contacts with the crew of the ISS, that's the station I used. I talked to those guys using two UV5Rs. They were like $25 radios. And I was already had it because I was just seeing if I could do it. And all of a sudden here comes the crew and I'm working these guys. Something else you'll notice too is, remember I told you that with these apps you can aim at it just like the sight of a rifle, just aim right at the target. That's why I have that mounted on there. I have my smartphone mounted on the antenna, and you can see the view, so I can aim directly at it. And when I first did that, I was in Texas, and a couple other satellite guys gave me a hard time, and they said, you're gonna affect the SWR. Well, if that's the case, I can just adjust the gamma match and compensate for that. I really didn't need to. My SWR was fine, but I could if I wanted to. But I stood by that because the reason why is because before I did that, I'd listen for the strongest signal, almost like you're blindfolded, and I got fairly good at it. But when I put that on and I could aim directly at it and visually do it, that was a game changer. Every pass, I worked one, two, three guys, sometimes six guys, every pass. Before that, I'd work one guy, two guys, maybe if I got really lucky. So this changed it. So that's why I stand by that. And again, you set up your station how you want, but this worked for me. I use filtering, and filtering is even more important when you're using $25 radios. This is a low pass filter. It worked okay. But here's the one that really did the thing. I used a duplexer for filtering. So what this does is, when I'm transmitting on the VHF side, I'm not blowing away my UHF side. And so this worked out good for that. You can see that I have the UHF side going through. The VHF side, it just terminated. It doesn't really go anywhere because I'm just using the filtering aspects of the duplexer. And it works good. It works really good. Before I use that, I was like blown away the other radio. When I put that on, I could hear myself on the downlink pretty good, but there's a catch. I had to be right on it. If I was off a few degrees, I could still blow my radio away. At least it seemed that way. So I had to be right on. So that's important. So again, the tracking was important. The filtering was important. Okay, my simple, inexpensive station. Again, my objective was, let's see if I can build the most cheapest thing I could that would work. Here's a parts list. This is all the stuff I put together. And as you can see, radios, duplexer, PL259, coax, the whole 9 yards. And I'll leave it up for a minute. You can take a look at it. Screen recorder app. And I don't know if I had that on. I'm going to jump over here for a second because I wanted to talk about recording. Maybe I don't have that till later. Yep, I don't have that till later. Okay, screen recording app or an MP3 recorder. You want to have that. Aero antenna. My cost in February 2025, my estimation was $283.50, which is a lot less than $5,000. So it worked pretty good. I put that together in 2018. Okay, now let's get real. I'm using a $12 to $25 radio to talk to an object in low Earth orbit. Let's be real. These radios will pick up a lot of noise. To use one, I'm going to read this verbatim, to use one of this type of application, you have to be far away from RF noise environments. A few years ago, I was going to do one of these talks up at PSRG at Field Day, and it did good as far as me explaining stuff. But the problem was I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't even hear myself think with one of these radios because I was up in Seattle, and that has a high noise floor. I couldn't hear it. But when I'm out here in Lacey, out in the woods, I can hear it fine. So if you're going to try this, you want to be out away from any high noise environments. Or another way to do is just use a Yaesu, Kenwood, or ICOM for one or both of the radios, but certainly on the receive. Could you get by if you say, hey, Mike, I got one Yaesu, I got one Kenwood, and I got this other UV5R. Well, you can transmit with the UV5R, and it's got good punchy audio. It'll do the job, and then use that more real or expensive radio for your receive. That has the filtering you need. And it would work in a high noise environment like in a city like Seattle, or even if I went into downtown Olympia. So you could use that. So again, there's caveats with this. You got to be pointed right at it. You got to have pretty good filtering, and I wouldn't be anywhere around any big city. Do it if you're operating portable out in the woods. Out here, it works great for me. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about satellite protocol. Yes, it's a jungle out there. Remember, you have 10 minutes horizon to horizon to work that satellite. It's on FM, only one guy can talk at one time. And so I don't notice it too much up here, but when back east, down south, they get busy. It gets really, really busy. And it's like it's a pile up. It's just like working a DX pile up. So what do you do? Well, because you only got 10 minutes and there's a lot of people wanting to work these, there's a standard exchange on FM. You're going to do your call sign, your maidenhead grid coordinates, and that's it. So here's some tips. Take time to listen to the passes. A lot of times, just listen to them at first. Listen to see how things work on it. Practice tracking the satellite. Practice changing the frequencies to adjust for Doppler. Even if you don't transmit, just practice uh, changing your receive frequency, especially like on ISS, because receive frequency is the one you're going to change anyway. Listen to how the stations operate and interact with one another. Get into the rhythm of it. Kind of like if you go to a party, you're going to listen to people, what's going on, what are they talking about, how does it work, whatever, that kind of thing. A great way idea is to practice during overnight passes. And even in busy areas, overnight passes are relatively quiet. That's how I started out. What I would do is when I first got on, I just got blown away. It's like, I, I can't get in here. And so I thought I'll practice at night. So I got up like on a Friday or Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I get up like two, midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. And I would literally, it's kind of like having the pool all to yourself. We had a pool down there too at the apartment we were at. And at night it was really quiet. You go swimming, it's all quiet. There's nobody there, nobody's making noise, and you just kind of swim. This was the same way. It was quiet. There was only one or two other guys on there. There's a guy in New York. He was in Brooklyn, and I talked to him like all the time. We would have raid chews. But what was important was it gave me space to practice tracking, Doppler changes, everything like that. So it worked out good. And again, it's not as busy here as it is back east. So it's not as essential. But if you find that you feel crowded, try those overnight passes. And again, try those techniques. Listen to it, get in the rhythm of it, go through the motions, practice it. And remember, use the power needed. Wow, that guy used a lot of power. Use only the power needed. You can hit these things. They're in low Earth orbit. You can hit them with 5 watts. You don't need 50 watts. You don't need 25 watts. And you'll hear guys do that. They'll be like, I'm going to get that grid no matter what. And they're going to crank it up to 25 watts. And you don't need it. And it's, again, I've been doing this a while, a little opinionated. To me, that's not needed. It's more sporting to be at 5 watts because everybody's at 5 watts, you know. And so that's it. Okay. When we mentioned get that grid, This is a map of the CONUS of grids. And this is a Gridmaster heat map. And what that means is what's the hottest places? What are the grids everybody wants? And the more red or orange they are, those are the hot grids. The ones that are green, most people have those. They're not really looking for those. But like here, you see that one on the West Coast. We have a fair amount of them here. And then up in the Cascades, you can see, and we'll go to the next one. Here's a PNW. You can see in the mountains, there's a lot. In a lot of the remote areas, those are still fairly hot grids. And so people want those. What they'll do is they'll get all the grids in the CONUS, or they'll get 100 grids, and they get awards for that through AMSAT. Um, the league has awards for that, and so they'll collect these grids just like you collect DXCC, work to all states, that kind of thing. So the catch is that like work to all states or like work in DXCC or what have you, not everybody lives in these grids, and even if they do, they may not be active on satellites. So now what are you going to do? You have grid rovers. These are the hams who travel and operate from rare grids in far remote regions. They operate similar to DXpeditions in rugged field conditions. There's often a pileup of stations trying to work them on the passes wherever they appear. Some hams have only one grid left to earn the award they've been working on for years. The last grid they need is where no one lives or even travels. Rovers are their best last hope. And I have rove grids, and it's a lot of fun. You get to be the Fox, you get to be the DX. There were some rare grids down the coast in Texas we went to. This is on Galveston. Actually, I'm sorry, it was on the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the one on the left. And of course, here we're at Ocean Shores. So we worked both, and it's a lot of fun. And we worked. Let's see, we rode grids when we were moving up here. We actually routed our path when we were moving up here, so we would turn off to rare grids and work those. And so that was a lot of fun. And Courtney loved it. We had a lot of fun. So she was really good about it. Some people were like, I'm not going to go, 25 miles off our path to do it, but we did, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, logging. Again, I mentioned in the parts list you have an MP3 player or a screen recorder. That's really important because you've only got two hands. You're holding an antenna with one, you're talking on the radio with the other. How you get you're not going to write anything down. You can't. And so recording it's really essential. But the other thing too is, again, these guys are rattling off these calls really fast. And I've had times, especially when I was starting out, where the guy would say his call. And first of all, I'm not going to remember, so it has to be recorded. Secondly, I had one where this guy said his call and was trying to log it. And I must have played it like 5 times before I got the guy's call right. But I had a recording, so I could do that. And so that really helps. And I keep those recordings. And a lot of times I'll maintain them for several months, maybe up to 6 months. And I'll get a email from somebody saying, hey, I worked you, And I was like, well, I don't know if I had them logged. And it very rarely, usually when I work a pass, I log everybody. But every now and then, maybe one falls through the cracks. So I'll go back, I'll listen to the recording and go, God darn, I forgot to log this guy. And so I'll send them an apology and I'll say, hey, you know what? I uploaded it to Logbook of the World. And so now you got it. And so I was able to verify that. And I could hear the guy's voice and I could hear me working them. So it's really nice to have. I use N3FJP's logging software. You use whatever you want. But you want to upload to Logbook of the World because that's kind of the standard that guys chasing grids use. They use Logbook of the World. And there it is there. And it's kind of fun to get ones confirmed. I don't paper chase, but I really love to help guys who do paper chase. And when I rove, again, I'm doing it. It's a lot of fun, and it helps people out. So, and it's something we can do here because we've got a lot of places in the mountains where there's some rare grid. So we can do it here. You get back east, where you're going to go. You're in the city. All those places have all pretty well been covered. So we have a unique opportunity here. Also, if I work a special contact, I'll send the guy a card. Like that guy I was his first contact, so I'll send him a card. And satellite operating awards, both the League and AMSAT offer operating awards, and you can go on their sites and check those out. Okay, let's talk about some common mistakes new and even people like me who've done this for a while make. Okay, you go out there, you mix up your downlink, uplink, and downlink coax lines. So you go out there, here comes this satellite or ISS, and you know it's there. You know it's passing over. You got your times right, but you can't hear it. What's going on? And all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, I got my coax. I've got my UHF on, my radios are mixed up. Switch them over and bam, it's right there. And it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. I've done it a couple of times. We all have done it. Um, I put a piece of tape on one of the coax lines that helps. That makes a big difference. Having the wrong frequencies programmed, that makes a difference. Take time with your programming. After you're done, do something else. Come back and check your work later. Transmitter and listening on the wrong frequency, same thing. If the recorder doesn't record it, that's a problem. So you always want to check your recorder or your MP3 recorder or your screen recorder. Make sure it's recording. I had one time where for some reason I had to hit a toggle for it to record audio. I thought that was kind of odd. But now after that, I always checked it. Getting rattled when other stations sound like they're speaking in super fast mode, and that's what it's going to sound like. Take the time to listen, get used to it, like we mentioned before, and that helps. Listen to the call signs, listen to the grids. Most of all, take a deep breath and relax. This is a hobby. It's for fun. You know, it gets easier with practice. Okay. Other things you can do on the ISS, APRS. I have a radio that's all self-contained. I can do APRS. It has a TNC in it. And so I've used that before and relayed through the ISS. And you can go on a page and see if it's heard you, and that's kind of nice. Other modes to try with the ISS besides that, SSTV. So with just an HT and a free app, you can do SSTV. That's what it sounds like. You can see it as it flows in. And it's interesting that we mentioned this because right now they just announced that there's going to be an upcoming SSTV event from the ISS to commemorate 25 years of SSTV on the space station. And it's going to be themed Boy Scouts. And so if you look on social media, they'll mention it. The frequency's on 145, 800. And again, all you need is an HT. You don't even need an arrow antenna. With just a HT antenna, you'll pick it up. It's got a strong signal. And so there's an opportunity, and that's going to be in about a week from now, I think. So that's coming up. Something else I'm going to mention too before I finish, because we're just about ready to be done, is uh, there is these satellites, including ISS, obviously, they pass over and they're in orbit. But there is a satellite over equatorial Africa that is a geosynchronous satellite. It's a ham satellite. Okay. This thing, you can see the footprint. It's pretty big. Um, how they put this thing up is AMSAT Deutschland in Germany partnered with Qatar. And when Qatar put up a regular telecommunication satellite, AMSAT Deutschland had talked to them, and obviously you can imagine they had a lot of talks and everything. And they said, we'd like to put one up. And they said, okay, we'll give you payload on this telecommunications satellite because obvious reasons. You've got great emergency communications covering a wide area, half of, 2 continents. And so it's up there. It's been up there for several years now. You can do it with fairly modest equipment, probably a couple $1,000, about like a good ham station, and it's really neat. We don't have one here yet. Hopefully, maybe someday we'll have one. But I wanted to point that out. And something I'm going to do real quick, get out of here. We can't get into that satellite, but we can hear it. And if you do a search for QO100, there is an SDR that you can actually hear this this satellite. Whoops, let me go back here, go up here, and I want to bring sound up. Where's the sound? I'm gonna refresh it. And so there it is. Now it is getting to be evening there, so it's probably pretty quiet. Let's see if there's anything going on here. Okay, and they have again there's data and everything on. I was picking up phone before. There's some guys. Maybe we went to bed over there. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's pretty quiet now because it's evening there. Point is that you can go on a SDR, and a lot of you I'm sure have used these. There is one for this geosynchronous satellite, and so you can see what they're doing on it. They can do voice, data, fast scan TV. It's incredible what this thing can do. It's just really something. So hopefully someday we'll have one here. It's a neat thing. So let me go back over here, put this back up. Okay. I have links on my webpage. There's also some links I put on my YouTube page. Also some tutorials of how I put together my stations. Some of these I've had up for a while. They're still timely and they're handy to have. So if you want, you can hit that QR code or to go to the website. So that's it. And we want to say special thanks to NASA, ESA, AMSAT North America, AMSAT Deutschland, ARL Logbook of the World. A lot of the photographs I use are public domain that you've seen on NASA, which are really neat pictures. And so there you go. So now I want to see if anyone has any questions that I can answer. Everybody's quiet. Are you muted? If you're going to ask a question, you have to unmute. Brooks, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
All right. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to raise your hand here in the chat, or you can post your questions in the chat, and I can read them off for you. Just give everyone a chance here, real quick.
Oh, and sorry, I don't have the chat up. So if you see that, Brooks, if you could relay those to me, please.
Yeah. No, I'm not seeing any at this time. So, oh, here we go. Hold on. We got two new ones here. We have thanks is from KK7HCD says, thank you, Mike, for a great presentation. AI6SB says, have to run, but thank you very much. All right.
Okay.
Well, very good. Thank you, Mike. That was great.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Now, something I want to interject too is if anybody is trying to operate or they put one of these together and they're trying to do something with it and they're stuck, my call is good in the call book. You can email me through there, and if you're stuck and you say, Mike, can you help me out with this?
So I have a question from Dean.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a question. It's more a comment and a basically your presentation was so good and so thorough that I think I had a few little questions along the way, but invariably you'd always answer it. It's like you'd really thought through so many different scenarios. So I'm sure I speak for a lot of other people on that. So thanks again for doing this.
Good, glad to do it. And again, if somebody gets stuck where you try to do it, it's like, hey, I can't work this thing. What am I doing wrong? Send me an email. if I can help out, I'm happy to do it. And one of the things I mentioned to Brooks before, when I started out, it was really kind of hard to find information. There was like all the stuff you could read about and all this stuff. But if you really got in a jam or wanted to figure stuff out, there really was nobody to lay it out really simply. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do this. That's why I made a couple of videos, even a couple of years ago, because if somebody else approached it like I did, I wanted to make the learning curve a little bit easier for them. Because that's what I kind of would have wished it would have been for me. But it was fun. It was a good challenge. So that's it. But anyway, there you go. So
We
I
got two
hope to
more
hear some of you guys
questions.
on there.
Two more questions here, Mike. We got Jim and Herb.
Yes.
So let's go with Jim first.
Yeah, I was as you were speaking, I was trying to find that Heavens Above on my phone in the App Store, and there were several of them that came up. And when I'm on it here now, like uh, it doesn't seem to be giving me any satellites. Do I have to pay the extra 99 cents to get the full version to see satellites? Because what I'm seeing is just kind of constellations and some of the usual stuff.
Well, if you're on Heavens Above, what you do is if you look at it, and I'll get it on mine here real quick. It'll help me to talk you through it. One thing I noticed this morning, let me bring it up on mine. Okay, for some reason, I went to connect to it and it says it can't connect to server. Now, that may be on my end, it may be on theirs, maybe they're having a problem with the server. If they are, it's pretty unusual. I've never seen it before. But when you first look at it, you're going to see lives. You should be looking at the version I have. I have the Heavens Above Pro, but the other ones are the same. You should have live sky chart, nightly events, ISS, radio satellites, and search satellites. Do you have that on your screen?
No.
Okay, so you're looking at something entirely different than what I've got.
Okay. And when I
Yeah.
get it in the App Store, is that all it is Heavens Above, or is there other stuff to it?
No, it's going to say Heavens Above, and let me put this up. Maybe you can see it on the camera here. And again, it says that for some reason I'm not able to get the. There you go. It's going to look like that, but let me show you the icon. The icon's going to look like that, right? Oh, tell you what. Let me do this. I'm going to go on the Play Store.
A quick comment, Jim, do you have an iPhone or an Android?
Good question. Yeah, I was going to ask him that next.
iPhone.
Oh, yeah, iPhone's going to be a different app because I'm
Oh,
using
okay.
an Android. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
What you can do though is you can take and look for something that's going to track the ISS, but you want to do something that's going to do satellites. And I don't know if, see, that's the thing. A lot of the stuff I have is kind of geared. I'm going back here real quick.
I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Okay, yeah.
Take Herb's question now.
Yeah, and again, that's going to be something you're going to have to see what works for yours. But yeah, check that out. And Jim, if you have any problems with it, if you need any help, I'm not familiar with iPhones too much, but if there's any way I can help, just shoot me an email. All right.
Okay, you got it. Thanks, Mike.
All right. You bet.
All right. KF5WYB, Herb.
Well, Michael, that was a fascinating presentation. I just wanted to, I didn't realize that you could really connect with a satellite on more power. Right? Antennas different. But I also wanted to say, Galveston, Texas. Uh, that's my QTH. We probably the clip with Houston right here. We met years ago in Electric Park. That's all I really want to say about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Brooks, I've got audio breaking up here. Could you kind of relay some of what Herb said? Because I was missing some.
I think what he was saying is that he's down in Galveston, so he may have spoke with you at some point.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Neat. Yeah. Very good, Herb. Yeah, we were in Harris County, and a lot of times we go down to the coast, down to I'm trying to think of the places we went to, down to my mind's blank now because I'm thinking so many other things. But just figure going down the coast. We were in EL 29. We went down to 28 grid, 27 down to like Corpus Christi around there. Um, and as we went down the coast, the grid that was just south of us was, which is probably either Corpus or just north of that, was a fairly rare grid. And that's the one where I got a picture where I'm standing on the beach. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And it's a good place to operate. When you operate there, you'll hear all the stations you'll hear all the stations from like Central and South America. And like on 91, it would come from the south, would be start heading north, and you'd hear all those stations come up. And then as it went past overhead, went north of us, then we'd hear all the American stations. And it was kind of neat. But yeah, that's a fun place to operate. And again, you're kind of on the edge there because you're right on the coast, on the southern coast. But yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Herb. Uh,
All right.
anyone else?
Yeah, there's another question. K7WFB Bill.
Thank you, Brooks. My question is, I've done some work. I've done some contact on the ISS with an HT and using my ELK log periodic, but as you know, it only has the one coax input. What's the best route to get to full duplex starting with that setup?
Wow. And again, I'm not too familiar with the elk because I haven't used it. It seems to me what people who use it, they have a full duplex HT, and there's a duplexer they have in the antenna. The only other alternative you could do is see if there's a way to tap into uh, a separate UHF. Because in fact, I'm looking at a diagram on another monitor here of it. Because I can't even really tell where you've got to have VHF and UHF elements on it. So if there's a way to tap in separately to those elements, that's almost what you'd have to do, like we done with an arrow. And I want to bring this up here real quick and go back to it because it's easier to visualize if you see it on there. Just a second here. Okay, got it up on screen here. I'm looking at, and again, I'm not familiar with the elk, so I wish I could help you more. But yeah, you would have to tap into the VHF side with one length of coax and then the UHF on the other. On the arrow, as you can see, you see the shorter UHF sides. They're separate. They're separate feed lines for that array, and there's a separate one for the VHF side. That's kind of why I like the arrow, and I went with that. Though elk is a good antenna. I mean, I've worked with a lot of guys, and they got good signals with them. As far as how to configure it, though, that's kind of rough. I don't know.
So I can speak to that for a minute here. Is
Oh
we
yeah.
use the elk antenna with a Yaesu full duplex radio to talk on satellites before, and you set your B channel to the receive, and then you set the volume there, and then you switch over to the A channel, and that's your VHF uplink, and the duplexer is in the antenna.
Are they able to do full duplex with that radio?
Yeah, like FT5 or I think my buddy uses. I think it's a VX8 or something. I don't remember which
Hey,
model it is.
there you go. And that's compact. You got one radio, and that elk is very compact. That's portable.
The I've got a Woshin radio, KGQ10H, which is also full duplex, which presumably should be able to do it too.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
the idea is you can tap into the separate bands on the elk. Is that what you're saying? Even though you have the one coax, there's somewhere to hook in.
Yeah, there
That's a
if the
move.
antenna has the duplexer in it, or it's you can listen and then talk at the same time, I believe.
Okay. And then which Wushin have we have?
And that thing does full duplex?
KGQ10H.
Oh, I know what I want for Christmas.
Me too.
Yeah, I'll have to ask you about that later on, Brooks. Yeah, that's kind of neat because I haven't had an HC. God, last time I had an HC that did full duplex, I had a Kenwood back in the late 80s, believe it or not. and that had full duplex. And I thought about that radio when I started getting the satellites. I thought, God, I wish I hung on that radio. Well, neat. Does anyone else have any? Bill, does that answer your question? Does that help you out?
It does. It
Okay,
does, and I'm getting Brooks's radio.
there you go. There you go. Brooks, what does that radio run about, ballpark?
I think it's about $220.
That's not bad for what it can do. There you go. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? There's somebody typing. Brooks, you see anybody on chat? I don't have chat up.
No, I think we're good here.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate everybody attending, and I really hope this helps you get on the air. And again, I'm good in the call book. Send me an email if you get in a jam, and I'm happy to help. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a neat part of the hobby. It really is. It's neat. Oh, and something else I was going to point out, kind of the obvious. If you're in an HOA, you're in an apartment, like I was in an apartment down in Houston, and I have an HOA here. That's what's really cool about this, because it's portable. You don't have to worry about it. You could be living anywhere and do this. You can't do that with HF, but this you can. So that's why I got into it originally, because I thought, oh, I can do this anywhere. So anyway, thanks again, everyone. I appreciate you attending. And 7-3 from kind of next to the loft in Lacey.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
So what we will do is we will, in the coming days, get this recording posted to the psrg.org website. And Mike, if you can send your slides over to me, I can get those over to Cami, and we can get those posted as well in the educational portion of our website.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and email those to you later on today. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, Mike.